you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence, the king of podcasts radio network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Forbidden Door is this weekend, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But tonight, my ongoing rants were the WWE's direction and where things are going. And tonight, my diatribe is inspired by watching the final installment of Who Killed WCW. So, the fourth episode is the one that kind of hit me the hardest, because it does make me think about the fact of all the people that screwed things up to where ultimately WCW, I mean, look, they could have still been around. You know, if things could have been turned around in a certain way. I mean, there were a lot of things that caused the demise. America Online was the worst culprit, and the people that came into that. Because otherwise, I still think that Turner Broadcasting could have found a way to still keep the wrestling show alive and just made other changes. They were going to have to go and just start downsizing. I mean, they had to get some contracts and get rid of them. Eventually, at some point, they were going to have to do that too. I don't know how they were going to do it, but with Ted Turner no longer being involved, Brad Siegel having a different ulterior motives, all of it. I mean, it still comes down to the fact I got to go back and watch that again, and then like I'm reminded, and the freshness in my mind of 23 years ago, and looking back again at the same moment, remembering that last Monday night show, and you know, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm always afraid where wrestling kind of loses itself, professional wrestling as a whole. And it's because one of the competing brands, you know, that kept WWF on its toes, okay? Regardless of what people want to go ahead and say about what is being done within what Vince McMahon was doing at that time, before WCW really got itself off and running, and they made the remarkable 83-week ratings run. But they were neck and neck with WCW and WWF. They were neck and neck with each other for well before that. As soon as Monday Night Show came on the air, for several years before that. And then automatically, it's one of those things that always helps to improve a company as a Leviathan, as Diamond Dallas Page refers to, the 800-pound gorilla of WWF, that they were to go and win. Or no, maybe it was Goldberg. I forget who was it that said that. But yeah, for the people that were there working, listen, regardless of the way that you saw the talent and who was managing the talent and who was booking, you know, when they mentioned the production staff, which I will never go away and say the fact that, you know what, WCW, the production staff they had going back to the Crockett's, going back to Georgia Championship Wrestling, okay, 80s into the 90s, they had good production people. They did a good job on their shows. The live show was done very well. And nobody gets enough credit for that. Keith Mitchell and the team that he had there and what they were really going to do. Like, I mean, how many times did they have real production problems on Nitro itself that really stand out? I can't remember a whole lot. But they used to run that show really well. Real tight. It was just, the people that were, I mean, even when the show was a train wreck, the production was good. It was, they did it in the right direction. They did what they needed to do. And as I always said, if we have two companies that are on their toes right now and they are making each other compete better, that's what makes a difference. I can tell you wholeheartedly right now that whatever AEW is doing, you know, Tony Khan is not really paying attention to what WWE is doing themselves. And what WWE is doing right now, they're not caring what AEW is doing either. It's pretty obvious. It's not anything to do with about, oh, if we're head to head with each other, maybe there'll be a different story. But the truth is that when I look at it, both companies are just on their own path. It's the fans that make it very toxic, and they want to go ahead and compare both brands. But the truth is, both brands are running on their own course. They are not necessarily influenced by competition. I mean, I think competition is important in terms of what Tony Khan wants to do because he wants to be able to get his ratings to be better. But they're all on separate nights. Like, nobody's ever going up against each other in any of their form, on any of their format. They're not. That's the difference of the Monday Night Wars. But a lot of fans just don't want to do that. They want to make this the Monday Night Wars, and it's not. Which means that the AEW team needs to worry about, they want to mind their own business on what they're doing on their roster. And the same thing goes for WWE, right? The fans out there, the very fickle bubble fans out there, okay? Fanatics. They lose the sight of that. And they listen to some of the older fans relish the days of the Attitude Era. When Triple H goes on Pat McAfee's show and says, oh, well, on Netflix, we're not going to worry about the language and the content. Well, you can't do the same show you did 25 years ago. You can't do this show that you have Rock, Stone Cold, Austin, Mankind, that you're not going to have all the sex innuendo. You're not going to have any of that. So the language? Let me tell you something. When Howard Stern left terrestrial radio and moved to Sirius XM under the guise of, it'll be uncensored, it'll be raw, he'll be able to do what he wants. Doesn't matter. He still had loads of commercials every hour when he does his show. Could he go a little bit longer? Yeah. Did it help with it was a little bit longer? No. But the show, just because he were to go and say the F-bomb here and there, doesn't matter. See, with Netflix, when WWE moves over, they need to be worried about making their show look more like a pay-per-view production where the commercials are just their promos and they're extremely limited. They can't be running commercials during that show. That's what people are going to be going to when they go to Netflix. I don't think anyone in their right mind will really give a shit about the fact that they can use a drop of F-bomb or they can use a little bit of language, be a little bit salty. Doesn't matter. I'm sure with hearing from Triple H telling the fans out there, oh, well then, maybe we'll hear Seth fucking Rollins. No, we're not going to get that. Because, they're not going to go ahead and just abandon their whole younger demographic. And for the most part, we're talking about the North American audience. For some people, they're going to be able to watch it where the language barrier is not going to be there. But it still comes down to the fact that, some regions, some territories are going to have to go ahead and still censor it. But the other thing, too, is that, you're preparing for Netflix in 6 months, and you think it's going to be like wonderful. Oh, we're going to give it to 2 hours. That's good. 2-hour format. That's good. But it still comes down to the changes you're going to think you're going to be making or are going to make the show better. You could be doing that right now. Because at the moment, I know I'm going to get people triggered by me putting a title out there this week like I did. WWE in its WCW 83 weeks moment. I'm going to explain that. Because WWE right now, they are living off the success they got from WrestleMania. Sure, they hot shotted a couple shows this week. It triggered some ratings. Good for them. But we know that there's some stories they got right now that are not really very well set up and prepared. Some that are, they're going in a direction that I don't really see what's going to make the benefit of it. They're kind of losing their stuff off the ball in certain areas. We're going to break down some of those areas tonight. Obviously, they have certain things they're going to try to bolster up that are going to be important for them. But it still comes down to the fact that they have the people going to the shows or selling out shows for the most part. But then there's going to be the down the line where they're going to be like, well, certain things are still happening here that, you want to spark a hot shot booking angle, whatever. Oh, you got somebody else that's running SmackDown now and somebody else running Raw and whatever they're doing right now. it still comes down to the fact that we need to care about the characters. We need depth. And we also need to get some other characters out there that have not been out there over and over and over. Been thrown down our throats. Okay. We're still having a lot of people that just want to feel like, well, they want to give Triple H so much benefit of the doubt. They want to make sure they don't say anything too negative or too critical of WWE because they feel like, oh, well, they're going to be AEW fans if they act like that. I told you I'm independent. I'm a fence sitter. But when I look at what they're doing right now, there are just certain areas that concern me because there's a little bit of lack of attention to detail. Maybe more of a lack of attention to detail. Just saying with that. Where do I start? I can start with the Wyatt Six. Okay, we're going to bring this group in now. Yes, you gave him a pretty good debut last week. Again, in the arena. Chad Gable being attacked and slaughtered, it looks like. The choice of Chad Gable being one of the people to be decimated at the hands of the Wyatt Six. And then comes back. Might be paranoid, but he was a heel last week. And he and the Alpha Academy were on the outs. And Chad Gable got no retribution for it. For being such an asshole heel that he was. He never got hurt. He never got attacked. Oh, so the Wyatt Six did the attack on him. The Wyatt Six, why are they attacking him for? Like, what was the reason for that? And then Chad Gable, he gets a victory to go into Money in the Bank. And he tries to completely go 180 and apologize to the Alpha Academy for his actions. But still, nothing aggressive, nothing violent, nothing of real reaction by the Alpha Academy. Instead, we get Otis saying, we're still not coming back to you. And Maxine wants to try to help reconcile. Because she feels bad about what happened to Chad. Makes no sense to me. Are we turning him face? Because that's what they basically did. They let the Wyatt Six turn him face. And he's been such a perennial heel right now. For the bulk of his run from Sami Zayn. Help me understand what they're doing here. And then they add an extra component where the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile now, they come to his aid, and it sounds like Chad Gable has options. He doesn't have to go back to Alpha Academy. So we're going to make some jealous kind of deal where the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile, we're going to put them together and we're going to get the Alpha Academy upset, or we're going to create some storyline where Chad Gable's in the middle of this crux of two factions that he had together. What are we doing here? All that doesn't make any sense. That puts a damper on the Wyatt Six. What didn't put a damper on the Wyatt Six, I will say, which is what the only thing they really needed to do was Chad Gable shouldn't have been out on TV. Leave the stigma of what happened with the Wyatt Six that he did on TV last week. Leave it there. All they needed to do to build up the Wyatt Six this week was the Bo Dallas interaction with Uncle Howdy. Because that was good. Very good. Dare I say, that was really well done to help establish the fact that, even acknowledge the fact that Bray Wyatt's death and why Bo Dallas is here doing this, that he doesn't want to leave, his brother's legacy behind, and that he doesn't want to be, he doesn't want him or the other characters to be outcast. So we see Bo Dallas here. Yes, they didn't tell you who it was. Bo Dallas has been gone for a while. Okay, B-Team was, several years ago. More than that. It's well before the Thunderdome. What, 6-7 years ago? Something like that? And then all of a sudden, you are only going to play to the lowest common denominator, your base fan base. The lowest end of the fan base that will watch everything and anything and will apologize and defend at a hilt anything Triple H does. That's what happened here. So most of your audience, are they going to go ahead and take the time to go and Google the fact that, Bo Dallas is related to one of Rotunda and the whole Wyatt family thing, but yet he was never really involved because they never put those two together in storyline? They never made a mention of it? So we're just supposed to dismiss the fact that they're going to go and use reality here, not explain that to people, and then let the Wyatt Six come and put themselves together. So there's a lot of kinks in the armor there, holes in the storyline, and the Wyatt Sick6 come off of here, and they use the tape. That was the thing too. So Chad Gable getting the tape from Sister Abigail, and use the VHS tape and doing that. Do we need to go and have the VHS tape delivered? Do we need to have that moment in the ring? No. And then also, nobody interacts or says anything in commentary about what they saw. No one said a word. It's just kind of left there. No one says anything about it. That's all they're going to do. No, we're just going to act like, everybody needs to make sure they have security out there and that everybody needs to be protected. Even at NXT, they think the Wyatt Sick6 is coming. But, there's nothing more we have to it. So Sami Zayn's no longer involved with the Alpha Academy because I guess, Otis has said, they moved along. But, of course, Chad Gable doesn't get punished for doing that. Sami Zayn now, he's dealing with Braun Breaker and just wants to give Braun Breaker an IC title shot. Sami Zayn just giving away title shots. I don't get that part either. So we're going to set that up. Braun Breaker doing something to agitate Sami Zayn. All he did was, Sami Zayn was he perturbed that Adam Pearce was getting, bullied by Braun Breaker, and then Sami Zayn decided to go and, do what he thought was the right thing? Give me the reason for that. That I hated too. A lot. What about the Judgment Day? Look, I'll tell you this. Yeah, people can go and say, at least we're getting, not one storyline just to go with one faction and that's it. We're getting multiple things going on at the same time. All right. Okay. Let's play that out. So Liv Morgan being involved with Dominic, and now Rey Mysterio is involved in this because he got involved when Zelina Vega challenged Liv Morgan, and now Zelina and Liv, they're going to set things up for the women's world title. Okay. By the way, Zelina Vega wanting a title shot, but she hasn't been, done nothing to earn the title shot. And then because Liv Morgan pushed Ray pushed Liv off of Zelina Vega, and then Dominic, because he's, has this issue with his dad, pushes him off, and Liv takes it a different way. There's that setup. And then Judgment Day on the top, where Damian Priest is dealing with Drew McIntyre. Got that. Or excuse me, Seth Rollins. It was Drew McIntyre. Where's Seth Rollins now? Okay. So a few things going on at the same time, and then we know that Rhea Ripley's got to come back, and Finn Balor and JD McDonough now becoming tag team champions now. Okay. So a bunch of things going on at the same time. But is it good? I can see it over and over. Yes, Liv Morgan's attractive. But the approach, the way she's doing all this, listen, for her already succeeding to be women's world champion, okay? Took care of Becky Lynch, knocked out Rhea Ripley to do that. We don't need any fucking revenge tour. Rhea Ripley is not here to answer any of this or to create the friction. Okay? There's no sense of consequences for what Liv Morgan's doing right now. Damian Priest isn't going to do anything about it. Finn Balor's doing nothing about it. So Liv Morgan now buys a TV for the clubhouse, which aces and eights. I don't want to get into this, but again, Liv Morgan doing things here, buying gifts, and then supposedly, everybody's, all these guys, they're simps out there. I'm sorry, man. You are simps if you're looking at Liv Morgan the way you do. Okay? I'm an older man. I know this whole deal. Listen, okay, young thing here. Dominic Mysterio has shown me nothing to make me feel like he's going to go ahead and betray Rhea Ripley. She's just getting herself into a mess, and Dominic Mysterio in his right mind should not be leaving Rhea Ripley. See, we don't have any reason for this to happen. Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio, were they on the outs before all this? Was Rhea really upset with Dominic after all this? I don't think so. Remember the whole time when Rhea Ripley and, Becky Lynch and all this was going on, Dominic Mysterio was still hurt on top of that, right? We don't have any answers to what him and Liv were doing together. Like, that hasn't been answered. We never had any confrontation about that. Nothing's been explained. But nothing's been there. And if they, when the kiss happened, he pushes off. I don't see what's going on here. This is so wishy-washy. And Liv Morgan's is the protagonist here. She's the one that's trying to go ahead and try to agitate. Like, we're doing the other way around. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, yeah, you could say it makes sense, but it's cringeworthy. Did you like the gifts I got you? And I got another gift coming for you too. And then she's giving title shots and doing things to help book matches for the Judgment Day. So Dom's going to fight Ray again next week. And Jenny McDonough and Finn Balor, buddies, for life, they get the tag team titles. I'm sorry, JD McDonough, he doesn't deserve to be latched on to these tag team titles. I mean, there's not a lot of tag teams out there to really warrant who could be those title holders outside of the Awesome Truth, which doesn't matter if the Awesome Truth had the belts or not. I mean, for them to lose it, now big whoop. But everything else comes down to JD McDonough gets a belt. What has he done to earn the belt? And the thing is, too, the Judgment Day, with these, half hanger-ons, right? JD McDonough, because he's kind of sort of in the group because of Finn. And Carlito's still around in this mix somewhere, somehow, right? It's a mess. And Damian Priest, even where Seth Rollins kind of brought himself into the mix, makes a point, and Damian Priest says, well, he doesn't need a Judgment Day. I mean, Damian Priest is on his own right now. Everybody else is on their own. There's no cohesion. There's no glue together. There's no responsibility to each other. Now the Judgment Day are back with titles again. Okay. I mean, even if you're going to go ahead and put this together and say, oh, well, because he now Liv's just taking the role of being mommy. Like, are we going to get to that part? Like, I'll tell you this. I'll say this. If you want to get people to the point of really making Liv, set out to be destroyed by Rhea Ripley on her return, then we don't need to have Liv Morgan only coming forward on Dominic. Because of what's happened now here this week on Raw. She didn't do anything for Damian Priest, but the fact that she helped Dom out, she helped JD and Finn, and then you see her together celebrating with JD and Finn the tag team titles. You could basically say that, and this makes more sense to me now if you make this storyline. If you decide to kind of put this all together in the next week or so, Liv Morgan shouldn't be the love interest of Dominic Mysterio. What she should do then is then make herself part of the Judgment Day. That she completely replaces Rhea, her role in the Judgment Day. That now she's made the Judgment Day in her own form, where JD and Finn are champions again, right? It was Finn and Dom were champions. I forget what it was. You had tag team titles. You had, World Heavyweight Champion or the Money in the Bank, right? You had certain people that had gold or some kind of trinkets of importance. We're back to that again now. Because Liv could make herself a faction of Judgment Day and just kick Carlito out. I mean, I could stretch myself out enough to take that as the reason for Rhea Ripley to come back and destroy Liv Morgan. I'll take that as a reason. But can we get away with the whole tryst with her and Dominic? It's not doing anything. If they're pivoting away to do this here, where she's now doing favors for everybody, okay, that's fine. Just in spite of Rhea, as opposed to like acting, because that's the point we're trying to make here, right? That Liv's trying to do a revenge tour on Rhea. Because it doesn't matter about Dom. Dom's just a pawn in all this. But it hasn't worked. But yeah, what happens here is that Liv, for whatever reason, gets all these extra perks here. Why? Because she's as champion herself? I don't get it. But if you want to make that and take it where she takes over the Judgment Day herself and she's the new Monday Night Mommy, okay. If she even calls it that, then you know what? I'll push back on this. I will step away and I will not criticize this so much. I'll actually give this a chance. I really would. Because if they do that there, that makes sense. Monday Night Mommy, hell, if you even have her looking in some way like she looks like that, that would make sense too. But like, you know, if you want to set up Rhea Ripley to come back, you haven't done anything to me to make me feel like it's anything special what the relationship between Rhea and Dominic is anyway. That's the part we need to understand too, because Rhea and Dominic have not been together each other in a real romantic sense. It feels like it does because of the affection that they have towards each other. So think about it like that. If Dominic, you know, is used as a pawn, and then what she does is she works her way through Dom and then works her way into the rest of the group. Like Damian Priest is no longer a part of this, but, you know, Damian Priest is on the outs of all this. I mean, maybe not now because Damian Priest is going to say, well, she's done some good for us. You know, in the clubhouse, now we have all these belts. Okay. So you could see the Judgment Day is now cohesive because they got all these belts again and they are now dominant once again. So you could do that. That makes sense. I'm fine with all that. That would give me something to say, okay, well, I'm not going to shit on this so much like I have. But it would be a pivot. It would not be a continuation of what they've been doing. Pivot to the point where the Revenge Tour actually means something. Because, all right, she already got the belt. She took out Rhea to get a chance at the belt, to go after Becky Lynch for the belt, and then won and got Becky Lynch away. So if we're going to see that, I mean, what's the difference if Liv were able to go ahead and claim Dom to herself? Like, what's the good of that? For her to take over her place in the Judgment Day, it's almost like Solo Sikoa with the Bloodline in a way. So you replace Rhea as the Monday Night Mommy, and Rhea Ripley doesn't have a place in Judgment Day. So you have her abandoned from Judgment Day because Liv is doing much more. She's more of a lucky charm to them. So Damian Priest will kind of say, well, Rhea, we don't need you here. And then everyone else turns on her. And then Rhea turns face. I don't know. I could see that going better. I've made my point. I'm going to leave it there. So now, Damian Priest could possibly step away from Judgment Day. I want that for him. I don't know if we're going to see Seth Rollins go ahead and beat Damian Priest, but I don't know where Seth Rollins is right now in terms of who his character is. I mean, he's been away for a while, and we know that he was very loyal to Cody Rhodes. He showed he was a face. No animosity. All that. Okay. But Seth Rollins now wants to go and reclaim his World Heavyweight title. He's a face here. Damian Priest is the heel. Is Damian Priest going to drop that belt? Is it going to go back to Seth? Like, what are you going to do with Seth Rollins coming up? I want to know because I don't know what their direction is. And that's the thing where I'm trying to figure out, well, you get Seth Rollins back from injury. What are we doing with him? Because this could very well be a one-off. And then what do you do with Seth after this? I want to figure that out. And I don't know what to do with him either. And then you see some things they're doing right now where it comes to Karrion Kross and the fact that, oh, he's beating former WWE champions. You know, he beat his 7th champion. And I don't think anybody cares. It's repetitive and lackluster. It doesn't matter. You keep putting Karrion Kross out there. It's like, you know, keep putting on Scott Norton in WCW in the days, right? When you have certain stars, you want to just keep putting over and, you know, and giving them like glorified squashes and keep doing something with them just to do something with them. At the tail end of the careers, right? It's the thing where I look at, there are storylines they're doing right now that really don't make a whole lot of sense. They're just kind of like out there. And let me tell you, I get the feeling of like some of the mistakes that were made after the 83 weeks. Like I feel like in a way, Dominic Mysterio, it's like David Flair and Miss Hancock. I feel like it's like that. Or Daphne. It really feels like that. That's not a bad scenario, huh? Yeah, Miss Hancock to Daphne. So like it's a flip of Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. It kind of goes in that direction. And I wouldn't be surprised if it does. But it's one of those things where, like, you know, you have things in other directions. Because again, David Flair, Ric Flair, and they tried to do the whole deal with him, and they have Miss Hancock and they have Daphne. And that whole mix in the mix. And Crowbar put in there as a henchman, right? It kind of feels like that. And then the decisions to go ahead and do what they do with major factions that are super over. When you go back to what WCW was doing during the 83 weeks, you want to look at the storylines they were doing at the time. They had major things they were doing out of this all together. And there's some similarities. So the Bloodline, I think of NWO. Because right now the NWO that we have, you know, with no Hogan out there, you know, Hall and Nash, they decided we're going to just flip off and create the Wolfpack with Sting and all that. And then it's like, okay, a different version of NWO altogether. Because the Bloodline has gone for so long, and now we got to do something that makes a little bit of change to it. So we have the current Bloodline storyline now, where you really wasn't getting much out of Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, but now we get Jacob Fatu into the mix. He was brought in just fine. Okay? No problems with him coming in. He, I think, makes a bigger impact than anything else, and anybody else right now in the Bloodline at this moment. And one of the things I saw that Bully Ray actually mentioned up on Busted It Open was that Jacob Fatu necessarily didn't hug Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa hugged him. So the way it's like, Jacob Fatu might not be in it for the Bloodline. Because we don't know. There could be a swerve in there. And maybe a very small hint was put in. And I could go with where Bully Ray was going in that direction. Talking about that. And so I look at the NWO and it's like, okay, we have the attitude, the invasion that they were doing right now. And what are they doing now these days? Sting versus NWO. It's almost like I feel like it's either Cody Rhodes or Seth Rollins, like in the whole involvement. Cody Rhodes going after the Bloodline. Kind of feels like the Sting moment against NWO. Kind of has that feel right now in the current state. Goldberg, well, I think of Braun Breaker in that realm. You know, what they're trying to do to build up his rise up. And while they might have had their cruiserweights going on, you know, back in the day, I think of the NXT call-ups. Of these stars they have down here that they brought up to the main roster that have not really done anything at all. I mean, Tiffany Stratton's doing a great job with Nia Jax doing TikToks. They're great together, and I actually hope to see them as a tag team at some point because they got great chemistry together. But, you know, I look at that and I'm saying, okay, women's division taking kind of a bit of that back seat. We decided to go ahead and tag Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair when they could be definitely two single stars with much more of a bolstering kind of thing to them. I don't know. There's a miss right now in the women's division, in my opinion. Not much they're able to do. Damage Control is a bit of a wash right now. It's time to go and dissolve that group. It should have been time. And then I look at some of the younger stars they have in here, and then some of the stars they have in here that, you know, are also part of that NXT group that we didn't even care about. Because, like, I mean, right now, Kaden Carter, Katana Chance, Alba Fire, Ala Dawn, Shayna Baszler with Zoe Stark, like some of these groups they have together, just don't care. Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, no. They're just putting people together just to put people together. And nobody's getting over as a respect to this, and I don't think anybody really will care to see them get over. Gargano and Ciampa are just kind of there. Happy to be out there to be used as they need to be used. New Day, happy to be used just as they're used. But they have some stars they could be doing something more with, but they're not. And also the star power. The celebrities they've been using right now as well for their own end. Logan Paul fits in that realm, in that category. And I don't know what else goes on, but like those are the major storylines that were going on during the 83 weeks of WCW. And then we look at now, current day, and it's like there were a lot of holes and mistakes being done within WCW about who was being at very top and what they were doing. I mean, after all the success of Roman Reigns being out there, we want Roman chants. Because are they really responding to the bloodline as it is now with Solo Sikoa? I don't know. Like there's in relation to the bloodline storyline when it comes to CM Punk and Paul Heyman earlier on SmackDown on Friday. Okay. But like, seeing Solo, Tama, and Tangaloa together, their reaction to them, the heel reaction that the fans have to them is because Roman's not there. That's the only reason. Otherwise, it's not super heat on anything else but the fact that Roman's not with them. That is it. End of story. So when things are going well, it's not a popular thing to be critical like I've been doing on this program, like your old buddy King of Podcasts has been doing, okay? Because most of my other fellow podcast wrestling brethren, they're not going to be so critical of what's going on right now because they have to feel like some allegiance to Triple H because, he was the guy about NXT and all the people we had on those indie shows and all this stuff. Look, you're not getting any of that kind of feel right now. Remember that. The NXT Black and White, that he was able to go ahead and just like pillage and go after rosters of Ring of Honor talent and wherever else they got him from, Evolve or whatever it is. That's not happening here. And they're not helping right now. And the DX style booking they got in NXT, it's not going to help them so far where it looks at in the future of the company, what's going to be done for them. That's going to help to bolster up the main roster down the line. Like we know there's going to be something in Roxanne Perez and Trick Williams. There's no question there. If we go a little bit further down the roster, Javon Evans, yeah, I could see it. When I look at on the women's side, okay, Lola Vice, I could probably see that. Kalani Jordan, I could probably see that. Yeah. Sol Ruka, yeah, I guess so. But they got to do something more with them. Got a lot of basic players in that whole mix. They got to figure that out. Like, if you're even going to just keep them in basic characters, one of the things you need to be doing is you need to be polarizing. You know what I think about right now? The other night, WNBA had one of their major rivalries that has started up this year because of two stars that came up from college, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, right? Caitlin Clark was with the Indiana Fever. Chicago Sky has Angel Reese, and then they have their accompanying players and things like that. That game on Friday night, up against SmackDown, by the way. Okay, head-to-head with SmackDown, got over 1 million viewers. Meanwhile, okay, yes, SmackDown got, 2.3 million viewers? But WNBA on Ion Television, of all places, 1.38 million viewers. Just saying. The WNBA. And it's because of two stars right there. Kind of like Bird and Magic almost. But, you get a story with both of them. Coming from college. So it's like they're from the minor leagues, moving up to the major leagues. These two in such animosity, right? Because of the fact that Angel Reese is such a villain. She wants to play the villain role. And you see each other, tackling on each other. And there's a lot of, aggression. A lot of, physicality. Almost being on Caitlin Clark. And, the fact that those teams are truly trying to fight and win. Real competition. Real passion. Real emotion for the story. There's more of that than what I see in some of the WWE storylines, okay? WNBA was like a figment of a rating if you looked at them last year. And all of a sudden, 1.38 million viewers on Ion Television. That's not a channel that everybody's all watching. But you know what? For most people, 90% of the audience, they could probably find it on rabbit ears. So at the same time, it's a young audience probably catching that as well. A lot of women watching that show as well. And SmackDown, they get the normal thing. But I mean, they had things that were going on in terms of the show. They hot shot booked, but you know, they didn't push more above and beyond that. They have a particular plateau. They have a certain threshold. Right, they're going to reach on a regular basis, and that's all they're going to reach. But yeah, man, I look at that, man. I'm like, wow, there's a lot to go in that there. And so I'm saying to myself, well, there's a lot being left on the table of what WWE could be doing right now for themselves to really get things up and going. Now, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, of course, they've been doing a great job on that storyline. I still think it's a bit of a miss to see Drew McIntyre lose the World Heavyweight title in the fashion he did in Scotland. But, you know, we'll look past that. Again, they made Drew McIntyre to the point where, okay, he quit, and then he comes back in, and now they're going to go after each other again. Again, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart. Got it. Glasgow Screwjob. Got it. Okay. So now we're at the point where Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, these two really are at each other's throats. Drew McIntyre leaves CM Punk a bloody mess. But we're still not going to get a match. There's nothing set up for that. Nothing. We're still waiting on it. We are still waiting to get some kind of payoff on that. These guys are just dealing with each other, but there's no pay-per-view match coming up. Nothing at Money in the Bank. Nothing at SummerSlam. Not at least just anyway. We're still kind of waiting. I want to find out about what that's going to be, right? So with all those storylines going into play right now on television, we're going into Canada next week, or it should be in a week and a half or so. They're going to go to Toronto, and they're going to have several nights leading up to Money in the Bank. And so Damian Priest, Seth Rollins, World Heavyweight title, that's set up. For the most part, that match should be good. But again, I feel like it's a one-off. I don't know if we're going to get Seth Rollins and Damian Priest to go after each other consistently. That's going to be some kind of a program. I don't know. But I don't know what they're going to do with Seth Rollins after this. Because it's interesting they don't have anybody else that he's kind of confronting right now either. Cody always has people to confront, but it's like, what about Seth? What are you going to do with Seth? Jey Uso, is he hurt? Because it's been interesting where he's not been too much. I mean, he's been on TV, but like not so much. And, you know, it's what it is. The Money in the Bank ladder match, I'm really kind of on the fence of who they are choosing to be potentially with briefcases. Io Sky, Chelsea Green, Lyra Valkyria right now in the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. I don't expect any of those to win. I mean, I guess Lyra Valkyria, but I don't understand the kind of push they're giving her. I don't get it. It's like Alba Fire and Dollar Dawn. I don't get it either. I just don't. It doesn't vibe with me. It doesn't really work well. And the Money in the Bank ladder match for the men, Jey Uso, Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, Chad Gable. Okay. And all those are fine picks. Like that makes it more of a logical sense in what they're doing with all those folks. Sure. Of course, they still need two more folks to find out who they're going to be in that ladder match. And then the IC title, Sami Zayn against Braun Breaker. Too soon for Braun Breaker to be in this role. And I think they're missing the point of what Braun Breaker is supposed to be right now and what they're going to be doing with him. It doesn't make sense. And then you have Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens taking on the Bloodline, which we don't know which of the four that are going to go ahead and face those three faces. It could be Solo, it could be Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, or Jacob Fatu. My guess it'll be Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, Jacob Fatu. I don't think Solo Sikoa gives in this. I think he stays outside of it and manages along right there on the ringside. I don't know if they do that, but there's a 6-man tag right there. They got that coming up as well. So they got more things set up so far, ready to go for July 4th weekend. Got it. But I'm still coming down to the fact that I want to just get an idea of where we're going to go next with this. Like, it just, some of the storylines are not working for me. They're missing on some of this. But meanwhile, in the aspect of the 83 weeks moment, things still keep looking high up for WWE because they keep getting shows where they want to go and they want to keep bolstering the audience. Like right now, they're making deals. So they did deal with Minnesota. 2 nights of SummerSlam 2026. Royal Rumble will be there in Indianapolis next year. Gainbridge Fieldhouse or Lucas Oil Stadium, I guess it is. I'm not sure. Well, let's see what they said here. Okay, so Royal Rumble will be at Lucas Oil Stadium, home of the Colts. And then there will be a future 2-night SummerSlam and a 2-night WrestleMania. Those will be setting up there. They're saying that they'll have Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and WWE live events happening in Indiana, where they'll have it in Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, and Evansville throughout the partnership. So Indianapolis gets themselves set up for a number of things. Great for them. So they did it with Indianapolis, did it with Indiana, did it with Minnesota, fine. Interesting note about Jacob Fatu that he's been with the company since WrestleMania. One of the other notes he mentioned was that in MLW, Fatu did not wrestle outside of the United States because of his criminal record when he was younger. Yeah, I don't think he worked in Mexico. I don't think he did. When they went to Tijuana, I don't think he worked those shows. No, he sure didn't. So I don't know about that. I don't know where Fatu is right now in terms of if he's clear to go and wrestle, internationally and do his thing. Everything's all been cleared up, I guess. I guess they had to clear it up when they brought him on board. But to see Jacob Fatu out there, good on him. I wished he could have talked. Because that's one of the things, while they don't give Tamatanga Tangaloa anywhere they couldn't do anything or say anything. I mean, Solo Sikoa now has an enforcer. Jacob Fatu should be what Solo Sikoa was in that way. But I want Jacob Fatu, I want him to have a mic in his hand because he's good on promos. People don't want to know that, but like, okay, yeah, you saw what he did in the ring. But he can do promos too. Let's not forget about that. And by the way, Jacob Fatu also now in the best shape of his career. It's amazing how big and how large he was coming into MLW. And now that he's worked his way through, Samoan Werewolf, man, he has gotten in shape. He looks amazing. But I also have that in the back of my mind that, if Bully Ray's right about that whole thing with Jacob Fatu, I'd love to see that happen. I'd love to see if that would actually be the real thing. That would be interesting to find out. Okay, we can bring a Forbidden Door in AEW. I have not talked about what happened last week. Obviously, there was a lot of people that were so adamant about the ratings last week. 502,000 viewers for Dynamite. On Juneteenth. So I can go through a couple of reasons where I could see where there was a mix of why a portion of that audience did not show up. Okay. I'm not going to talk about anything within the show itself. But TBS that night. Let's look at the TV schedule they had that night. Leading up to Dynamite. The focus on TBS and TNT on Juneteenth, June 19th, last Wednesday night, was a Juneteenth movie marathon. Creed 2, 42, Black Panther, Pursuit of Happiness, and King Richard. Normally they have Big Bang Theory that would happen on before that, and other shows would be on before that. It would be like more comedies. It was just more a different lineup altogether. So the thing is that to have AEW Dynamite right there in the middle of the mix, wedged into the Juneteenth movie marathon, I'm not going to say the fans are racist, but I'm going to say that, you know what? That block of programming they had all day wasn't going to necessarily vibe with wrestling because, the people that are going to be watching movies, especially those movies they chose, they're probably not going to be looking at seeing people all of a sudden watching wrestling. Because you know what? They're going to watch a movie marathon on Juneteenth, and all of a sudden, we're going to see a breakaway at prime time at 8 o'clock at night to go to wrestling, well, then they're not going to watch. So that's what happened. Movie marathon, you would think that would be like an all-day movie marathon. So for some people that were watching all the way through and they were watching Black Panther right before, and then they go right to AEW Dynamite, yeah, probably turn them off and flipped. We're going to go to something else Juneteenth. Because that's probably what we're going to do. And there were probably other things that were Juneteenth related that were on other channels that people were going to be watching, okay? Because that was the plan. Because everybody else on the lineup had Juneteenth programming as well. All the networks, Disney Plus, Hulu, History Channel, Prime Video had stuff. Everybody had other stuff on Juneteenth. So to go ahead and break away at that at 8 o'clock, yeah. I think it's going to be a one-shot. I think the rating's going to go back up at least to 700,000 viewers once again for the show they had on tonight. I really believe that's what's going to happen. Now, besides that, what they did on the show tonight, for the most part, set up for Forbidden Door coming up this weekend. Of course, it'll be on Sunday, and I will be doing a post show for that here. kingofpodcasts.com, so go and look for that. Had a lot to go on for the show tonight. I love how they're using Japanese wrestlers when they're going to have them on regularly on their programming and how they're using them. Like, it was really cool how they decided to go and they're using, to get Okada over, to team him up with the Elite, and everything is bitch at the end. It's hilarious. That I'm loving it so far. Again, to see Okada last week with the audio, with the Acclaimed out there, and it's like, I'm so sorry, bitch. And like, everything is bitch, and it's hilarious, and people are just looking for the punchline, and I don't think it hurts him at all. And he had a good match by the other way with the Continental title on Collision this week, which was really good, among other things. And so everything's set up now for Forbidden Door. I think everything was really well. Nothing but MJF right now, except for the fact that he appeared. But MJF was not the major focus. I did miss MJF coming out because I had been still finishing up on Who Killed WCW before I went to it. So I missed the part of what was going on with MJF and Daniel Garcia, which was interesting to have out there. But, they decided to go that part. I'm going to play what they actually had over there that I missed when MJF came out in front of Buffalo.
I'm going to say nice things about MJF.
That's a first.
Go on. Max, 9 months ago, I wasn't doing a whole lot here. I was sitting in the back, but I was watching you every single week. You were the longest reigning, youngest AEW world champion of all time, main eventing arenas across the country and making history. But you came up to me in the back and you had a conversation with me that lit a fire underneath me. You told me that you see me more than just being a lackey. You saw me more than just being a background character. You saw me the same way that you saw yourself. And that is a pillar of AEW.
I like the fact that MJF is working with the younger stars here and doing more with some of the guys out
Khan,
here.
And he said, if I got enough wins, that I could challenge you for your world title. But the thing is, when I did challenge you for the world title, it was one of the most embarrassing moments of my entire life.
Forgot they had taken a title shot with each other. Daniel Garcia had a chance at him.
But it wasn't all bad because that loss, it motivated me more than you could ever imagine. That loss led me to going on the run of a lifetime and being part of the biggest moments, the biggest matches that this company has ever seen. It motivated me so much that now I'm somebody that these people can respect. I'm somebody that these people can believe in. And now I'm contemplating why settle for being a pillar when I can be the backbone, when I can be the workhorse, when I can be the very foundation that the future of AEW was built on.
Fiery promo from the face here.
And Max, for that, I want to thank you. But I want to let you know, after I said all that, if you talk shit now, you're going to look real two-faced. And you're going to have the whole city of Buffalo, New York coming at your head tonight.
Okay, hold on. First of all, MJF two-faced? What? Okay, maybe a little bit.
Of course he was. So I missed that part. And MJF tells Daniel Garcia if he gives enough wins, Tony Khan will allow him to challenge for the world title. And so we're going to see that there were something down the line. That's good. Mutual respect. And then MJF has a challenge for Daniel Garcia, but then Will Ospreay confronts
Daniel Garcia versus Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. Wembley Stadium, all in.
Wow, that is huge. That is a big deal. Wembley Stadium coming up August 25th.
What do you say, Danny?
In London.
Look at my mom. That is huge.
Well, that is the music of the man that could be
And I
going
missed
to
Will
All In
Ospreay come out
London.
here, but this is the part I didn't get a chance to catch
Not
on.
only the AEW
few minutes late to the
International
show.
Champion, but after this Sunday, Will Ospreay could very well be the AEW. Come tonight, our main event, Ospreay and
So we're gonna move up a little bit forward. Here we go.
Take on Toa Leona and Bishop Khan.
I'm catching this while I'm watching, while I'm listening with you guys. Just catching back up on this, okay? Why don't I do it on the wrestling show? Why not?
Buffalo, stand up. Let me see those beautiful faces. Oh.
Looking forward to Swerve Strickland and Ospreay this weekend.
Hey,
That'll be good.
I don't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to come out here and just say I appreciate your homeboy, Danny Garcia. Man, this guy has made it publicly known that he wants a shot at the International Championship, and I love the way that you've been doing it, because you've just been racking up win after win after win. Bruv, you've been doing it quicker than I last in the bedroom, bruv.
And actually, they've given him a lot of wins on Collision.
Sorry, babe, I'm trying my best,
and on,
I promise.
On Dynamite.
Yeah, no, it's working.
But listen, man, I appreciate that you're going to let me get Forbidden Door out the way. So because of all the hard work, because I appreciate you, and because I love Buffalo. Hey, next week, you got it. AEW International Championship, Danny Garcia versus Will Ospreay. But, how about I sweeten the deal for you, sunshine? How about, not only will this belt be on the line, how about I put the World Championship on the line as well, bruv?
That doesn't pair too well with Swerve Strickland for sure.
Danny, what'd you say we give these people the feeling?
Next week, Chicago, Ospreay, Garcia for all the gold. Let's get it.
Wow, Ospreay.
All set up. So there's all that set up for next week. And then we know that Ospreay and Strickland had their match and everything was set up at the end. That was good too. And again, everything being set up for Forbidden Door. The whole night looks really good for that show. Let's go and look at the card right now. UBS Arena, Elmont, New York. And Swerve Strickland, Will Ospreay for the world title. Jon Moxley will defend the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Tetsuya Naito. If I had to go and pick right now, I will take Oh man, I'll tell you, Swerve Strickland will win, and he will retain. I think Jon Moxley will retain over Naito. The AEW TNT ladder match. Yeah, Konosuke Takeshita, Mark Briscoe, Jack Berry, Leo Rush, Dante Martin, and then one last opponent that left that could be added in there, a wild card. And I'm going to take Jack Perry to win. I really do. Somewhere I feel like Jack Perry is going to be the one because after all that was said and done, I think Jack Perry wins it. Mercedes Moné, Stephanie Vaquer. That's been a good setup. By the way, Mercedes Moné doing a good job setting up for the match, going down to Tijuana at Triple Mania to go ahead and confront Stephanie Vaquer. That was really good stuff. Holding both belts. That was cool. By the way, both titles on the line. The TBS Championship and the New Japan Strong Women's Championship down there coming up this weekend. And Toni Storm, Mina Shirakawa. That was set up really well with... Oh, by the way, I like the new Outcast now with Anna Jay and Harley Cameron along with Saraya. I think I like that group a lot. And then Toni Storm, Mina Shirakawa, and Mariah May went together as a trio. But then there's a whole setup where Mina Shirakawa obviously has a jealous streak, uses a bottle, and hits it on Mariah May. So we get the whole setup where now we definitely know what side Mariah May is going to be with, setting up for the match. I think Toni Storm wins over Mina Shirakawa. We'll see that coming up as well. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Orange Cassidy to set things up for that. I will take Orange Cassidy on the win for that. MJF versus Hechicero, and I'll take MJF on that. And the Owen Hart Cup tournament first round match, Bryan Danielson against Shingo Takagi. I will take Danielson, who definitely says he's going to win, and he's going to stop losing. He's going to win that match. You got the Elite versus Scissor Ace, the Acclaimed and Hiroshi Tanahashi. I will take the Elite over Acclaimed and Tanahashi. And then you have Chris Statlander in the 0 Hour teaming up with Momo Watanabe against Will Nightingale, who will be teamed with Tam Nakano. That's all set up for this Sunday. And I will have a post show. I'll be doing it right here, kingofpodcasts.com. So go ahead and look for that. We will do it on Sunday night and set things up. But so far, I'd love to get your thoughts, comments. If you are listening on the YouTube channel, let me know what you think about what my thoughts are on the WWE right now in their 83-week moment. I'd love to get what your take is on that, what you think about what I said about it. If you feel like I'm kind of off about it, hey, you want to be critical about it? Feel free. I'd love to hear you say something about it. Go ahead and reach out. So go ahead and make comments right on YouTube, or, hit me up on the social media. You'll see clips of the show coming up all across social media. Everything you need to know about the show, kingofpodcasts.com. Enjoy Forbidden Door this weekend and come back for another Wrestling with Real podcast for the recap, because wrestling needs us.